Do you believe in supernatural powers? There are still substantial numbers of individuals who believe in a greater force, whether through religion or rituals of belief. While it is true that having faith can provide comfort and strength in times of difficulty, it is also important to be aware of the potential dangers that can arise from blindly believing in something that cannot be proven. People can be easily manipulated and taken advantage of if they put too much faith in something that is not based on reality. This is also evident in the current case in which an Indonesian sorcerer killed 42 women who sought his help. The motive? He believed he could become invincible by killing women and drinking their saliva. Let's dive into today's case, the case of Ahmad Suradji. One ordinary day on April 27, 1997, a young man visited a sugarcane plantation in Say Semayang village to collect various weeds he could use to feed his livestock. As he went his way, he spotted a weird mound between the sugarcane plants. It seemed out of place, so he went to Sugito, the village chief, to report it. Sugito went to check it out with several other men he had gathered. When they arrived at the location, they inspected the ground. It appeared that soil had been dug. They poked a stick into the mound. They removed the stick and inhaled the end, which gave off a horrible smell of decay. They could tell something was wrong. They quickly informed the authorities and they were instructed to dig the mound. Sugito and his men brought oil lanterns and shovels to dig the mound. Around midnight, they discovered a bloated and naked female body in the pit. After failing to extract the body, they notified the authorities. When the sun came out, a large crowd had gathered to watch the commotion and the excavation of the body. The body of the poor woman, which still had some flesh on it, was quickly identified as Sri Kemala Dewi. The girl's mother was informed of the horrifying discovery and raced to the dig site. She begged and prayed that it wasn't her daughter. However, as soon as she saw the corpse's feet, she fainted. It was her daughter, who had apparently gone missing for 3 days. Around the village, everyone talked about this terrible discovery. Hearing the news, a 15-year-old pedicab driver, Andreas, stepped forward to testify regarding Sri Kemala Dewi. According to him, 3 days prior to the discovery, Dewi got into his taxi at night. Dewi was reluctant to reveal her exact destination, but eventually did. She informed Andreas she intended to pay a visit to Datuk, a shaman named Ahmad Suradji. She also requested Andreas to keep his mouth shut about her visit. With this vital testimony, the police rushed to Suradji's house to question him. When they finally found the person they were seeking, they began to inquire about Sri Kemala Dewi. Suradji, of course, denied any involvement. He admitted to observing Dewi's body being taken from the ground and mourning her for 3 nights. However, when the police searched the man's home, they discovered Dewi's belongings, including clothes and jewelry. Suradji was immediately arrested on suspicion of murder. Suradji was interrogated repeatedly, although he strongly denied any involvement. However, he ended up pleading guilty to murder. He told the police that Dewi had come to him seeking help to rebuild her relationship with her estranged husband. After inviting Dewi to his home, he convinced her that the ritual would help her marriage. In the middle of the night, he and Dewi walked through the graveyard and onto the sugarcane field. Suradji remembered Dewi being nervous and terrified, so one of Suradji's wives had to accompany her. After they arrived at a certain spot on the field, Suradji convinced Dewi to be tied up. Dewi was hesitant, but eventually gave in as she really hoped to get her husband's love back. Suradji then dug a shallow hole and laid Dewi in it before burying her inside. He instructed her not to move until the hole filled back up. He crouched next to her, covered her eyes, and then strangled her to death. After making sure she was dead, Suradji did his sick ritual of drinking the saliva dripping out of her mouth. Suradji and his wife then stripped Dewi naked before burying her in a shallow grave. Suradji later revealed that Dewi was not the only victim. There were many more. He initially admitted to the murder of 5 victims in the same manner, but the number eventually increased to 42 killings over the course of 11 years. He added that he sucked the saliva of 42 deceased women to gain invincibility. What did this mean? To gain invincibility? Taking a moment to examine Suradji's upbringing will help us understand the context. Ahmad Suradji was born on December 12, 1952, to Jogan in Sartik. The family wasn't well off. Sarti was a housewife, and Jogan worked as a subsistence farmer and a shaman. Before bearing the name Ahmad Suradji, he was named Nasib by his parents, hoping his life would be better than theirs. Unfortunately, his father died when Nasib was only 7 months old. Nasib's poor financial conditions made it impossible for him to complete his education beyond elementary school. Nasib was a mischievous child who enjoyed committing minor offenses. Nasib's playmates claimed that he frequently stole things and got into fights with people. Having a rebellious attitude, Nasib ran away from home when he was 19 years old. During his getaway, he was apprehended and imprisoned for theft. He remained undeterred after being released from prison and returned to prison for stealing cows soon after. He started to explore the world of shamanism after his release, much like his father had done before. At the age of 27, Nasib married a woman called Tumini and changed his name to Ahmad Suradji. He hoped that changing his name would transform his life for the better. From his marriage to Tumini, he was blessed with 4 sons. Suradji, on the other hand, was unhappy since he desired a daughter. So he went to his mother and informed her that he desired more wives. As their family religion was Islam, he was allowed to do so. Because of this, Sartik's mother was unconcerned about her son's plan for remarriage. What worried her was that the women Suradji had chosen were Tumini's own siblings. His mother warned him that it was immoral and that Allah would punish him one day. Suradji ignored his mother's plea and kicked her out. He eventually married Tumini's siblings, Tumina and Natia. He had 5 more children from his marriage. It was evident that he was ruthless when pursuing what he wanted. He was clearly influenced by his father because aside from being a farmer, he was also known as a shaman or a witch doctor. In Indonesia, witch doctors are classified according to their specialties. For example, if you wish to earn quick riches, you can request a demon from the Pesugihan witch doctor and sacrifice another person to feed it. If you despise someone and want to curse or kill them, you can seek help from a santet shaman. There are numerous other forms of witch doctors, whether religious or not. Even in this skeptical modern era, this mystic occupation does not appear to be losing its clientele. People who seek the assistance of witch doctors are always willing to do whatever the doctor requests, no matter how absurd it may appear to the average person. Unfortunately, the spiritual shortcut can endanger people's lives. What kind of witch doctor was Suradji? People claimed he could even move clouds to keep the rain away. His wives advertised his power to the public in order to entice consumers to seek out his services. He became well known in the area and even had government leaders as his clientele. Suradji's work and power earned him respect in the Say Semayang village. But one day in 1986, Suradji had a strange dream. He said his late father appeared to him in his nightmares. He recalled the ghost telling him that if he wanted to be invincible, he should drink the saliva of 70 dead women. The shaman later confessed that this inspired him to seek such power through whatever means necessary. And from then on, he was on a mission. How did he commit 42 crimes without getting caught? Suradji reportedly instructed women who sought to counsel him not to tell anyone about their visit. He persuaded them that this was a necessary component of the ritual that should not be broken. Suradji would perform a spiritual scan, and once he had his money, he would lure them to the sugarcane field. There, he persuaded them to bury themselves as part of the rite. It was unsettling to learn that some of those women offered to assist Suradji in digging the hole that would ultimately become their grave. These women were either prostitutes looking to increase their popularity and clientele, wives looking to rebuild their broken relationships, or women seeking to enhance their beauty. When Suradji couldn't find any female clients, he would hire a prostitute. He would persuade them to participate in the rite and then murder them in the same manner. The murderous witch doctor's confession shook the nation and made headlines across the country. Not only local and national news stations, but international journalists also covered the gruesome case. The name Ahmad Suradji haunted the nation. Suradji would then be brought to the site and reenact his own killings, documented by the press. Following the shocking confession, the investigation team launched an excavation project to recover the victims' remains. They utilized a bulldozer to speed up the digging operation due to the enormous size of the plantation. The confession of Suradji was true. They discovered remains all over the plantation land. Because the bodies had already been reduced to bones, identification was impossible. Ahmad Suradji was tried on December 11, 1997. Prosecutors sought the death penalty. During the trial, Ahmad Suradji allegedly recanted his confession to the 42 murders and denied involvement. It became complicated since the skeletal remains could not be used to generate compelling evidence that Suradji was the one who murdered them. His 3 wives were also arrested and questioned in relation to the crime. If Suradji wasn't open to talking, they tried to infer a motive from the wives' confessions. Natia and Tumina were discovered to have been present at the consultation session at their home. Tumini, on the other hand, was a key figure in the planning and execution of her husband's murder. Eventually, the prosecution team spent 7 months gathering evidence and witnesses to back up their case. Even when hard evidence was scarce, social pressure and public uproar influenced the trial. People despised this cold-blooded witch doctor. Not only that, they demanded justice be served on the spouses. Ahmad Suradji was convicted of 42 murders and sentenced to death on April 27, 1998. He didn't seem too upset. In fact, he appeared to be accepting his fate. Tumini was also sentenced to death. Her sentence was later reduced to life in prison. Many objected to this decision, including Dewi's mother, who claimed Tumini was just as guilty as her vile husband. Following the verdict, the villagers gathered to raid and destroy Ahmad Suradji's home in order to protest his presence. On July 10, 2008, Ahmad Suradji was executed by the firing squad. The authorities attempted to transport his body to Say Semayang village to be buried with his parents, but the residents objected. Burying the killer in the same cemetery as the victim and the victim's family was an insult to injury. Authorities tried to bury him in another cemetery, but the villagers also refused. On July 11, 2008, the witch doctor's body was ultimately buried 50 kilometers away from the village. Psychologist Irna Minauli stated that the behavior shown by Suradji made her suspect the sorcerer actually had an antisocial personality disorder. Suradji did not appear to regret his actions and remained calm all the way through. The psychologist also said that Suradji wasn't considered insane because he was fully aware of what he was doing. The gruesome story of Ahmad Suradji was later adapted to a movie written by Indonesian writer Joko Supriyono. The film, titled Misteri Kebun Tebu, or The Mystery of the Sugarcane Plantation, tells the story of Suradji's life and the series of murders he committed. Joko himself had met Suradji face-to-face to familiarize himself with the story firsthand. In Joko's eyes, the feared witch doctor didn't look intimidating. Rather, he looked like a normal, scrawny man who didn't seem to be bothered by his sins. Joko mentioned that Suradji himself revealed to Joko that he knew one day he'd get caught, but still, he did it nonetheless. The case of Ahmad Suradji isn't the only witch doctor case that has caused the deaths of vulnerable people. Recently, Indonesia was shaken by another serial killing committed by a witch doctor named Bas Lamet. He promised his clients to double their money. However, when they asked for their money again, he murdered them and buried them in his field. Another case described the death of a 7-year-old girl whose parents believed her tantrums were the result of demonic possession, as a witch doctor had told them. They attempted to get rid of the demon by holding the little girl underwater, resulting in her drowning. What made this even more sickening is the witch doctor told her parents not to worry since he would raise her from the dead again. Because faith in mystical powers remains widespread in Indonesia, many people continue to entrust their problems to mystical experts. In the absence of an immediate solution, people often turn to this path, unaware of how frequently these so-called experts prey on their vulnerability. Here in Korea, we also have a lot of crime cases involving shamans or mudangs. To see these desperate people suffer more at the hands of heartless individuals like them is just too tragic. That's a wrap for today. Thanks for watching.